Hi out there in the YouTube world. This video I'm going to be going through some concepts with you of religion and science. And then I'm going to throw in, at like the top of it all, spirituality. Because I think that everyone, or at least our culture as a whole, is kind of struggling with these terminologies, because there is cross-references between all three of them. And yeah, especially when it comes to, we'll put astrology at the heart of this triangle that is trying to be explained through all these three different means. Now, and it's a very hard concept to understand, especially if you're coming from a ego materialism standpoint. So you can look at things in scientific view, where there's different mindsets of people to understand this astrology concept. And during this, I'm going to try to break down the myths that go behind this. And so you, at the end of this, you should have a better understanding. And if you come from really I don't know, brainwashed perspective of religion, or at least the dogmatic orthodox views that have to do with Jesus being a physical person, and there's a special man assigned in the clouds that judges over everybody, that's judgmental and negative, and I don't know, you can't have sex, even though that's a part of your body, that's a sin. Well, there's that kind of perspective, and then there's actually there's an astrotheological perspective, which I would still categorize with religion, because it's still unprovable. Because even Santos or astrotheological people would say they try to debunk the Bible, but even in at least the modern day perspective of it being a man up in the clouds judging our soul, Santos, it's not really his religion, but it's the astrotheology religion, and it's more that we're all divine beings and that we're all sacred. And I'm kind of more for that one, but I'm still gonna clump it in the religious brainwashing category, because it's still, when it comes to this etheric dimension, tangibility, things that you can physically put under a microscope, are never ever going to be obtained. But that's something I'll get to later. Because there still is evidences and proofs, but you actually have to take the time to do the experiments yourself, and they're not normal experiments that you can just, these things take time, and most people don't have the time or the patience. So, but yeah, if you do, then that you are on the track for this, because with you seek and you shall find the answer. So we had it all grouped with, so there's the religious there, and the different views that because even me being on the astrotheological perspective, still with religious people, then there's scientific people who, if you want to look at stuff from materialistic more perspective of what we can see and what's tangible and what certain electronic devices can measure, then, through DNA, and a lot of it has validity, and I'm not arguing that. But what I'm arguing is that some of the contexts that come with that are implied. Meaning, even if we are derived from a cell, a primitive bacteria, from millions of billions of years ago, does that mean that there is no divine consciousness linked to all matter? Well, it doesn't say that on the scientific spectrum, but scientists treat it that way, where it's an implied doctrine. And in life, we have all of these things going on, okay? And in the grander scheme, there are people who believe different stories or histories all over, and it's about trying to connect the meaning through understanding by sharing of this information. And I think that that's why, like, especially in our modern times, the world is so awesome and special, because we've never had this before. Like, if you wanted to know the information that, like, I don't know, a sage or someone, you wanted to get educated on something, you would have to, like, travel, or they'd have to travel to you for, like, far, and, like, horse and buggy. Like, we never had all this digital, like, instant transformation of information. Like, but, yeah. Now, through my studies of all of these subjects because I love science, like, ever since I was a little kid, I've always loved science, because I love how it can explain how things function. Like, you know, when it comes to, like, anything, like weather, tornadoes, lightning, electricity, like, all that stuff. Like, I love science, like, and I do know all that. But, or at least I could explain it to you through words. But aren't those really just kind of like trained in doctrines, if you think about it? Because a lot of it actually shows us scientific evidence that we aren't ourselves privy to. Like, we don't have that at our access. So we are ultimately just believing people who say that they've had that experience from science. But then, even in a religious context, you have to take the words of, like, the seers and the mystics and the mages. So either way, you're kind of putting your trust in other people. Now, with astrology being at the top here, I want you to be looking at your chart. And I've done, like, so many chart readings that I know it works. And what frustrates me the most about it is that through modern science, I have a really hard time explaining it. Like, you can talk about the angles of the different signs and how light being refracted through the Earth's atmosphere at different angles creates this beautiful crystal matrix of light refractions that results in your being. Like, there's so many words you can use to explain it, but the fundamental meanings, I don't think, are culturally known. Like, because it's an inner thing. Like, that's why a lot of religions of the past, like, even with, like, ayahuasca and, like, DMT and all that kind of stuff that accesses the pineal gland for visions, so that it can actually, because these things aren't tangible, but they are repeatable, which science requires that something be repeatable, you know? And that's something that is kind of strange about all of this, is because something that is untangible and not of our, like, physical plane, that we have a hard time getting down on paper, can, through scientific means, be shown to, like, you know, like with remote viewers, like water dowsers, tarot readers, all these things. Like, they can show aspects of reality that they shouldn't be able to. And what I really want to, it's hard to explain, but I kind of do have an understanding of how this works. And because, you know, the whole term, like, as above, so below, that's the classical, like, the words they use to describe it. Well, the universe is a system of clocks, of frequencies that are interacting, and they're like fractals. From, you know, zoom out to imagining the whole galaxy, zoom into a solar system, zoom into an atom. All of them are cyclic and have energy, and are all connected as a cog wheel to the other. Like atoms in the couch, atoms in the air. None of them are little islands. Everything is connected. Your thoughts ripple out in space and time forever, okay? Like, it's a pretty special thing, and it's like fractals. If you just go and look up some fractal imagery stuff, like where there's interconnected, like not either the kind you zoom into or the kind you zoom out of. But imagine that, like, each atom is its own fulcrum of this energy. And, like, you as a human being have exponentially more power of this fractal nature built into you, because you're able to make more changes. And that is a fundamental aspect of this fractal interconnections between the as above and so below. And through my studies, I've really noticed that, like, it really represents psychological natures in people. Like, very detailed as well, which would, I think, give scientific validation to this, as well as, like, the astrotheological perspective. But then when it comes to, like, sharing some of the knowledge, you really just, if you want to understand, you have to go through the journey yourself. Like, you can't just have it through words, someone explaining it to you. Like, you have to have the epiphanies on your own, and yeah, the mere fact if you watch to this point means that you really do try, and that you really have the effort. So, yeah, I'll leave some links and things that I feel would benefit you, and one little tidbit I'll add in here at the end is that if you're into astrology and knowing the 12 zodiacs, you really should know the 27 Nakshatras, because they are very important, and psychologically they make up a whole new layer to the zodiac, which would give you further understanding of psychological nature in people and in yourself, and know thyself, and you will know God. Mwah. Love you all, and subscribe if this is your first video. Like it. And I'll see you in my next one.